Oh, Game of Thrones is back, baby. I feel as though I couldn't say that for the first two episodes because the first two episodes were essentially playing it super tame, where it was more not battles, but just political movement. Political movements may be like the wrong political subterfuge. Not even political subterfuge. I can't fucking stand Otto Hightower. I still don't like his ass, even in this most recent episode. But we've moved past what I feel like is the pilot setup phase, for which the first two episodes essentially did. Which the first two episodes laid the foundation for how relationships are essentially going to be going forward in the series in regard to like Rhaenyra and Alicent, and the way in which Viserys and Rhaenyra's relationship is kind of deteriorating in a certain way. But at the exact same time, like if you just look at the relationships that they've been building over the last two episodes, you can honestly see that these are decent people that are being manipulated by shitty people. Where Rhaenyra and Alicent are best friends. In any other world, growing up together, they would be best friends. But in Westeros, the political backbiting and political outmaneuvering and the way in which they look at how family needs to be advanced through these like young marriages and things along those lines, it puts them on, and also like the rights of succession, it puts them on the opposite sides of a board. And you see the deterioration of their relationship, where before Rhaenyra had somebody she could confide in and tell all her problems and her secrets to, once Alicent shifts over to the mother role as the queen, that relationship deteriorates. She can't tell anything to Alicent because she's afraid that Alicent's going to tell it to Viserys. Or that relationship wise, what's the dynamic now? I went from being your best friend to now you're my mother, but we're the same age. But also, while you're my mother and we're the same age, you just gave birth to a son who's a better claimant to the throne than I am, that all these old male fucks essentially want to throw me to the side, marry me off to some random fucking person, and then put Aegon forward as the person who's going to sit on the throne and be king. But then on the complete opposite side of that, that's like just from Rhaenyra's point of view. Rhaenyra's point of view is just completely warped and wrong, or at least she has the wrong impression of Alicent. Because when you see Alicent after Otto speaks to her, she's still backing like Rhaenyra. She's like, you know, you're the claimant to the throne. You can, you know, he chose you. And she has her back when she's sitting in the room with Viserys later on, where she could easily be like, nah man, you need to toss her to the side, and you need to make like Aegon king. And she's like, no, like you chose correctly. Rhaenyra is going to be a great person who's going to lead the realm going forward. Like there's no need to throw her to the side in any way, shape, or form. And she reinforces what I feel as though Viserys was essentially weakening on, where he was considering making Aegon the person who would take over. And when he speaks to Alicent, you see that Alicent's like, no, you know, keep on supporting your girl, because, you know, she's still my girl. She's just going through some shit right now. He bounces back to Rhaenyra and he realizes that, you know, I made this decision. I'm going to stick with this decision. Meanwhile, in the background, you have Otto fucking Hightower fucking everything up. Otto Hightower, I'm gonna make a video about Otto Hightower, because I've been seeing a lot of comparisons where people are like, Otto Hightower is essentially Tywin Lannister. No, he's not even Littlefinger. He is not in any of their leagues. Because with Littlefinger was okay being the power behind the throne. He wasn't interested in being on the Iron Throne, but he was interested in being the power behind the throne, making certain moves so that he could advance his own station while not drawing any attention to himself. Because look at the moves that he made. Master of Coin. Then from Master of Coin, he used Lysa Arryn to essentially blame Tyrion Lannister to get a thorn out of his side, to cause chaos between the Starks and the Lannisters, start a war, weaken all of the great noble houses, marry into a noble house with a gigantic fucking army, kill his betrothed, that word just, yeah, no, kills his wife, Lysa Arryn, takes over the Vale, now has one of the most powerful still standing armies between the Northern Lords and the Southern Lords, and he's in a great position with his location to basically, if he wanted to, with the war between the Lannisters and the Starks, if it wasn't for the dead coming south and Jon Snow coming back, he could have swept the north and then probably swung down south, like the old Stark kings used to do in the past. Well, the old Stark king is going to do in the past/present, which is what this show is based on. But Otto isn't that. And then Otto isn't Tywin. Like, he's not like Tywin Lannister moving certain pieces into place to make sure that his family standing continues to grow. Because if anything, if Otto was in any way, shape, or form smart like Tywin, he would have probably fostered a relationship between Rhaenyra and Alicent. Because he probably wouldn't, even though Tywin married Cersei off to Robert, it was the best move to make for House Lannister, which was to marry themselves to the new crown. But for the most part, Tywin was shrewd as shit. If Tywin looked around and he was like, if I marry you to my house, like, it's just gonna be chaos when both sides go to war. It'd definitely be easier if, like, I took my son and I married my son to your daughter, and then we could combine both of our houses. Tywin wouldn't have created two different sources of power that were going to be destructively competing against each other for control of the Iron Throne. He'd just been like, Alicent, okay, you're like, I forgot what his son's name is, but we see his son joust against Daemon Targaryen. He'd have been like, I'm gonna sit down with the king and we're gonna make sure that you marry her so that both of our houses are united going forward. And Alicent, I'm gonna try and probably marry you off to Daemon. He'd never do that. He fucking despises Daemon. He'd never marry Daemon off. He would marry Daemon off just to get Daemon drunk so he could kill him. Like, absolutely, marry Daemon. And on your bed night, make sure Daemon is exceptionally fucking drunk. And then on that night, Otto would come into the room and strangle Daemon Targaryen himself. But Tywin Lannister wouldn't have made the same moves that Otto did. Otto's moves have essentially set the board on fire, which it's going to lead to what it eventually leads to, which is the two sides of the Targaryen households fighting each other and just absolutely destroying everything and ruining their power base. So no, I would never put Otto on the same tier as Tywin or Littlefinger in any regard. Like, I don't think he's a master manipulator. I think that Daemon more or less had him pegged the moment he first met him, which is Otto Hightower is a fucking coward and he's a manipulator, and he's a manipulator because Viserys is weak, which is why he's terrified of Daemon being on the throne, because if Daemon takes over, he's going to be the first one Daemon kills, or Daemon exiles back to what is he from? I know the Hightowers live in the High Tower in Old Town. He's going to exile him back to Old Town, like, quick, fast, in a hurry. It's also interesting seeing a Lannister. Wasn't expecting to see a Lannister show up, and it's super funny that the Lannisters are more or less used as the mouthpieces for how the lords feel about Rhaenyra essentially inheriting the throne. Because even though they came and they bent the knee, and you would think that that would be the end of it, they're still plotting and scheming in the background to essentially have Aegon take over, where they're like, yeah, eventually you're going to be like, not Rhaenyra, right? It's going to be Aegon, right? And Viserys is just like, no, it's Rhaenyra. And they're like, but you're kidding. It's definitely not Rhaenyra, right? It's definitely going to be Aegon, right? And no, it's not going to be Aegon. They're like, he's definitely joking. No, that's good. Putting that on screen essentially lets everyone know where exactly the Lords of the Realm sit. And it's not really all the Lords of the Realm, just the Lords of the Realm who are in the South. The Daemon Targaryen, I forgot what they're called, the Stepstones. Stuff, fantastic. Prime Game of Thrones. Caraxes flying through the sky, setting everything on fire. The guerrilla tactics that the Crabfeeder essentially uses. Daemon, it's funny watching Daemon go from like this beloved, because in episode 2 he was essentially like the beloved leader of the Gold Cloaks, but when he lands on Caraxes, everybody fucking hates him. Like, they're looking at him with just pure hatred, and he knows that everybody hates him. He doesn't give a shit. You even approach me wrong, I'll have Caraxes burn this entire fucking camp down to the ground. But when he gets the letter and he reads the letter and he snaps because he doesn't want to be saved. If he gets saved by Viserys, he's a failure. And now is the time, essentially, to do something drastic that he probably didn't have the balls to do before, which is make himself the target, lure out the crab feeder, and then go in and kill him. And you see him take the petty route where, like, he rows the boat out to the shore, and the crab feeder comes out like, is he serious? Like, he's giving up. I like the fact that he didn't, like, instantly come out there himself. He sent his men. Like, he sent, like, I like how the crab feeder essentially operated in this, where he operated like a general would. He sent out, I think it was like he sent out like 5 men, and he listened for Caraxes. And when he didn't hear Caraxes, he sent out like 5 more men. And then he had the archers line up on the ridge above, aiming down at Daemon. And when Daemon drew his sword, he just starts cutting through. Goddamn, Matt Smith. Woo! Looking great. Starts cutting through all of his men. He's still listening for Caraxes. He doesn't hear him, so he sends out more men. And then Daemon continues fighting. Still no Caraxes. Sends out more men. And he keeps signaling them, sending them at like 5 by 5. But then Daemon gets hit. Gets hit in the shoulder, hit in the stomach, and then hit in the back of his leg. And he falls into like the broken piece of the ship. And he's still listening for Caraxes. And he's like, okay, if the dragon's going to show up, it's going to show up now when you're about to die. And he still doesn't hear anything. And when he doesn't hear anything that time, he's like, fuck it, dragon ain't coming, everybody go. And everybody goes running out, and the second they all get around Daemon and are about to kill him, the other dragon comes flying in. I like that, because it shows that in the last 3 years, he's been so used to Daemon Targaryen, he's used to the sound that Caraxes makes when it comes in, because Caraxes is just as loud and obnoxious as its dragon rider. It roars, it announces its presence, it lands onto the field, it's screaming fire and blood all over the place. The crab feeder got so used to it that when they switched it up and they use a completely different dragon that they probably have never used before against him, it catches him off guard because the dragon comes in quiet, it comes in restrained until it has to drop the Dracarys to set everything ablaze, and it absolutely does, and that looks it fucking great. I absolutely love it. Woo, Game of Thrones. Let me tell you something. I missed watching dragons just fly in and set everything on fire, man. Like, oh goddamn, that's that feel I've been missing for like the last couple years since Game of Thrones left. Like, absolutely fucking great. I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get to see Daemon versus the crab feeder. He kind of goes into the cave, then he comes out just drenched in blood. Him being drenched in blood definitely means that fight got hella juicy and hella close, where I would say that blood from head to toe, he definitely slashed the crab feeder in half from the bottom up, and that blood is what lands on top of him when he kills him. But watching him drag the crab feeder's body out of the cave and just like toss it into the water, and then Corlys looks up and he sees Daemon, he knows that the war is over. Fucking great. That's Game of Thrones at its best, baby. You give me the political intrigue shit, you give me dragons setting things on fire, you give me a character doing some dope shit, and you absolutely have me, because Game of Thrones is back. This is the episode where we can officially say that Game of Thrones is back, and it's fantastic and it's fucking glorious. Now I need to go and watch the second episode of Lord of the Rings, because while I like the first episode, I have a sneaky suspicion that I'm going to be highly disappointed in the second one. But if you like this episode of Game of Thrones, comment down below, let's talk about it, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.